Hate is one of the most powerful and driving emotions known to man. Its influence over each and every one of us is alarming and, quite frankly, terrifying. The actions that such emotions influence can be either life or death. Violence in America is a growing and extremely pressing matter, as it is the cause of so much pain and suffering within many communities. In 2024 alone, there were a total of 84 school shootings countrywide, breaking national records. Since the early 2000s, there has been a steady average increase in these numbers. No parent should have to second-guess the safety of their child within such a protected building, and no child should have to experience the trauma of violence in school. Obviously, none of this is limited strictly to violence in schools alone, as violence is present in all community groups. Women are burdened with the pressure of taking precautionary measures when, for example, traveling alone or at night. As a young woman myself, this fear is very real. Having to constantly check and be aware of your surroundings is such a draining yet necessary aspect of being in public. In America, 1 in 5 women have experienced sexual assault and violence. Although this number alone is staggering, it is important to understand that a vast majority of these attacks go unreported, leading this rate to most likely be higher. In a study comparing level of safeness within the United States to that of outside countries, it was seen that the United States is the only country to be as developed as it is and still have 2 cities ranked within the top 20 most dangerous cities. There is no reasonable explanation as to why such a modernized country like America should be so deeply poisoned by violence the way it is. The best approach to understanding why violence is so deeply embedded within our society is to understand the root causes. In a survey completed by myself regarding individuals and their personal opinions and takes on violent crime in America, I asked, "Do you believe violence in adults stems from childhood experiences?" A vast majority of the responders agreed that yes, it does, but only in certain situations. This prompted me to deepen my search and look further into the effects victimization has on children. I found that broad levels of victimization within a child throughout development is very likely to harm their levels of resiliency. Because children are so impressionable, the way that they are treated and the way that they learn right from wrong shapes their behavior as their brain develops into adulthood. Therefore, the best way to decrease the rate of violence in America is to identify and catch the developing problem before it can become disastrous. Psychological evaluations in children will allow for an early onset detection. The simplest and easiest way to conduct such interviews will be to incorporate them into children's everyday school schedule. Just like a hearing or sight exam would be conducted in the school's nurse's office, a child from ages 5 to 6 would be brought in and sat down with a licensed psychologist. To remain fully private and safe, the doctor-patient confidentiality procedure will be in place just like any other therapy appointment. The doctor will ask the child a range of questions surrounding their personal interests, hobbies, their home life, and the way their supporting family members treat them. If the doctor deems them to be anything other than mentally stable, then counseling services will be provided for the child, and other measures will be taken if, for example, they are experiencing some type of at-home abuse. Giving a child the opportunity to speak up in a very open and safe environment is something that must be reinforced, as it is hard for them to truly understand and express what they may be feeling. Teaching a child healthy coping mechanisms from a young age will allow them to hone these skills later in life. My second solution is very similar to the first, however, will be used with more developed adult individuals. The addition of a psychological evaluation into the process of buying a gun will further prevent such deadly weapons from falling into the hands of people who truly should not have access to them. The biggest problem surrounding gun violence shows up post-purchase, being in the way that it is stored and the specific people that have access to the weapon. If an interview is added after the buyer fills out the 4473 form, which is an in-depth questionnaire that is sent to the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, it is more likely that uncharted behaviors and specific details regarding the purchase will be noticed. The form doesn't ask many questions regarding the individual's intentions surrounding why they're buying the gun, or even the context of their family and home situation. The doctor will, again, in a doctor-patient confidentiality manner, ask the buyer questions regarding motives to purchasing the gun and the type of environment they live in. It is important to know if certain mental illnesses run in their family or if they are currently in a residence containing someone who is mentally unstable. If deemed necessary, help would be provided to the individual and they would be unable to purchase a gun until the problem has been resolved. Although these solutions may seem invasive and too personal, privacy is something that will be guarded and reinforced thoroughly. No data will be shared with outside parties unless an individual is thought to be in danger of themselves or harming others, which is exactly how any other doctor's visit would work. Some might also argue that requiring a psychological evaluation of a child is unfair and too invasive. However, it is worth noting and bringing up the laws and regulations surrounding the requirement of vaccinations. In many states, there is a list of required vaccines a child must have to enroll. Screenings are far less invasive and are ultimately much safer, as the whole process is designed around the safety of the child. As I said before, hate can have an overwhelming amount of power over an individual and can ultimately shape a person and the way that they act. If you or someone you know is struggling mentally, reach out and provide a helping hand. No harm has ever come from helping a friend in need. There are many online resources designed for anyone and everyone, as well as in-person resources across campus. No situation is ever too big or too small, as anything has the potential to develop into something larger. To make America's brighter future, we must start by making it safer.